Good afternoon. My name is Normand Balthazard. I'm CEO of Prognomix. Prognomix is involved in developing diagnostic tests with a genomic signatures that predicts cardiovascular and renal complication for type 2 diabetic patients. The company was founded in 2005 by Dr. Bellini and Dr. Ahmet and Dr. Tremblay. Dr. Bellini is well known in the field of biotechnology, was a founder and president of Biochem Pharma that was sold for over $5 billion to Shire Pharmaceutical in 2001. After that, he founded Virochem that was sold for over $350 million to Vertex, I think it's 2008. Ahmet, one of the most known scientists in Quebec, worldwide notoriety in the field of hypertension and diabetes also, was a scientific background, scientific founder of the company. Myself joined the company last September 2011. Background is from the finance side and venture capital. I was the founder and president of BioCapital Venture Cap, who during the decades of the 90s was the lead investors, was the co-investor of many of the success in Quebec and some in Canada. 12 IPOs in the portfolio, and the fund, after doing an IPO in '97 for $80 million, was sold to an institution in 2001, and the return to the investors was 19% in cash. Diabetes, very important disease worldwide. Over 360 million people are diagnosed today with type 2 diabetes. Projection of over 550 million 20 years from now. 10 million new patients on average per year. 50% of those will die of cardiovascular complication, and up to 20% of type 2 patients will develop renal complication. Now, the core of our data arise from an important clinical trial, probably one of the most important clinical trials that was done at the time, called the ADVANCE study, for which Dr. Ahmet, our founder, was a private investigator, a top scientist involved in the trial. 11,000 patients, type 2 diabetic patients, were followed for 5 years, 2 blood samples per year, 3 medical visits per year. Collecting that amount of information is an incredible uniqueness. It's cost over $200 million to the pharmaceutical company who undertake to do that trial. Now, the beauty of Prognomix is that all those samples, all the algorithms that were developed during those trials, all rights to diagnostic being developed out of those data is exclusive to Prognomix. Dr. Ahmet was able to license this to the company without any fees at the time. It's only a royalty eventually. And this is quite unique. Any of the big pharmas involved in diabetes, they all have important clinical trials of 8,000 to 10,000 patients. But all those samples, the blood samples from the patient, they keep for themselves. There's not a pharma that would give this away to a biotech company and give them the right to develop diagnostic. And this is really the uniqueness. At the time, and still is, Dr. Servier, the founder of Laboratoire Servier, a large pharmaceutical company, private company in France. Dr. Servier was a close friend to Dr. Ahmet, and this is how those rights ended up in the company. It's impossible for a biotech company now to finance such data, and this is why there's nobody around us trying to develop those biomarkers that predict complication. Now, out of those patients, we did on 3,000, we did a complete genotype and sequencing. We've identified so far about 100 SNPs and 100 CNVs. There are errors and copy variations from genes replication. We've identified about 200 biomarkers that will form the core of our test predicting the risk of complication for cardiovascular and renal complications. Now, adding those biomarkers with regular questionnaire from the doctors will total about 90% predictability, and this is very high and very useful for the medical community to be able to predict if someone is going for a dialysis in 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years from now. There's really benefit that could be derived from this, from the system and the quality of life. Now, there's 3 tests that we're developing out of this. The first one, and the first 2, I should say, are services. They're not linked to a risk for the FDA or risk for the trial. First one is companion diagnostic. The era of the blockbuster is over. More and more, the pharmaceutical company is developing drugs for which there's a test that predicts to which patient the drug is really effective. 43% of the drugs being given are not effective. They're not giving to the right person. So more and more the pharma are developing tests to know to who to give the drug. And we have the biomarkers that predict those complications. We have the information and we have the data. So we have the know-how to do co-development opportunity with pharmaceutical company in order to either develop new drugs or optimize actual indication in the market. Second product is screening. So the pharmaceutical company are doing screening of patients. We can screen those patients. And the third product, I'll detail a bit more later on. So the first product, as I was mentioning, is companion diagnostic. So using our know-how either to, in the development of a new drugs, be partnered with a pharmaceutical during phase 2 or phase 3 in order to select, stratify the patients to who that drug should be given. The other opportunity is the drugs that are already in the market. Some drugs are being given number 4, number 5, number 6 in the process of indication. We can optimize the indication. And this is where we are at the moment, at the best level in discussion with pharmaceutical company to do service contract to optimize the indication of the patient so that their product being number 5 on average would become number 1 for a very niche market. In each case, it's hundreds of millions of dollars that they would gain from that precision. Second product is quite unique in the field of diabetes. After the company succeeded its phase 3, product is efficacious. The company, there was an FDA guidance issued in 2008. The company must do an outcome trials that require over 10,000 patients, last for 5 years, cost $250 million. And this is only to know if the drug that's been proving efficacious against diabetes, to prove that it doesn't cause cardiovascular events. So the pharma must wait 5 years, and they must wait for cardiovascular events in the placebo arms and in the drug arms to see if there's a difference. Well, with our screening test, we can screen those patients that are going to have an event. So in that way, to make a long story short, the pharmaceutical company will do its outcome trials in about 2.5 years as opposed to 5 years. For a drug that goes to the market that has a value of $1 billion per year, our test is of an incredible value. So this is our product that will be ready to be commercialized about Q2 2013. Each contract in our estimate is about $15 million, plus eventually the royalty. There's 100 new drugs being developed for anti-diabetic products. And so there's a huge potential for us in that market. Third product, really the home run, last minute, really the home run. There's 360 million people with type 2 diabetic at the moment. 20% are going to develop renal complication. People would like to know if they're going 10 years from now for hemodialysis, for a dialysis, if they're going for renal dysfunction. So that test costing $500 is irrelevant to the $75,000 that it costs per year to handle dialysis. So this is really the home run. We can sell out of the 360 million people that are there now that would like to have that information, plus the 10 million new type 2 diabetic patients that are diagnosed every year. There's for sure 5%, 10%, 20% who would pay to have that information as a patient, or the hospital system would like to know in order to save the cost long run. So this is our 3 product. Great opportunity. Diabetics, it's one of the major diseases. We're involved in diagnostic. It's not an FDA product. It's not regulatory risk. It's a short-term to market. We have service that will be commercialized next year. The home run will be partnered with a big pharmaceutical company that will commercialize the diagnostic. So we do not have a big risk in development, and we do not have the FDA risk. Commercial market is important, and we believe, that's what my pitch when I came in last September. The plan is we're not building a company here, we're creating value. That company, those assets, will be exit from in 3 years from now. 2014, this company, those assets are sold to pharmaceutical company. That's the game plan. That's all. So we're doing a financing round. I'll be pleased to answer more questions on the financing round. Thank you.
I we allowed to a dumb question? What is it worth for a diabetes patient to know 10 years in advance that he will need dialysis?
Well, there's many
to the hospital, to the healthcare system, I understand, but to the patient.
Well, there's many complications from diabetes, but of the complication, we've selected 2, cardiovascular and renal, because there's something that can be done. If there is medication that can be applied by the doctor to the patients in order to eventually avoid kidney failure, or in some case to postpone it. So there's really a pharmacoeconomic benefit to the system to have that test in order to save eventually. And for the patient, I mean, there's a quality of life, knowing that you got 90% probability to go for kidney failures 20 years from now. If you use that medication now, you have 50% chance of avoiding it. That's of interest to patients. Thank you very much. Merci.